The James Show Podcast.
A lot of people are shocked over here that Jim Acosta thinks it's okay to resurrect one of the children killed in the Parkland school shooting back in 2018. And he interviewed him, and not for, hey, you got a message for your mom and dad or for the world or whatever. It was to push gun control. So it's kind of, it's new, so it's going to be weird just by the fact that it's new, resurrecting dead people through AI. I think we'll get used to it eventually, but I'm not sure if we'll ever be okay with resurrecting minor children to make a clearly, explicitly political statement. 800-288-9227. If you haven't heard it yet, here it is again. This is from Jim Acosta's little online show where he's talking to an AI recreation of one of the kids who died 7 years ago at the Parkland school shooting.
Joaquin, I would like to know what your solution would be for gun violence.
Great question. I believe in a mix of stronger gun control laws, mental health support, and community engagement. We need to create safe spaces for conversations and connections, making sure everyone feels seen and heard. It's about building a culture of kindness and understanding. What do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea, Joaquin.
Oh, I think it's sick that you did it. I also think it's a terrible argument. It's as if anybody's going to come to shoot up a school and they're like, oh, wait. There's a safe space here? Oh, well, I changed my mind. I'm just going to go put this gun back in my truck and I'm just going to go luxuriate in the safe space because that's what we need. No, you know what stops school shooters? Good guys with guns. That's how almost all school shootings end. When the cops show up or someone else with a gun shows up, they either take out the guy or the guy takes himself out. And I say almost all the time because there have been mass shootings where the guys run out of bullets and just been sitting there waiting to get arrested, like the Aurora Theater shooting, the Dark Knight. But most of the time, with rare exception, the only thing that stops a bad guy intent on committing violence is a good guy who's also committed to committing some violence. 800-288-9227. How is Ron calling from Kansas? Ron in Kansas, you're on WBAP. Are you in Kansas right now?
Yes, I am. I'm headed back towards Texas.
Are you listening on the AM feed? Do you have a really good antenna, or are you listening on your phone?
I'm listening on the phone on the app.
Oh, you're very kind. Thank you, sir.
So
all right.
I travel for a living, so I'm always got you guys on 24/7.
Oh, you're super nice. Now I like you. Go ahead, Ron. What was your comment for the show?
Well, my comment for the show is, first of all, Jim Acosta is such a loser that he can't even get a good interview with a living person, so he has to resort to somebody that unfortunately has passed away. And another thing is, they tried this whole AI thing back during voting season, I believe, and they got sued for it. There was a company that was doing it.
I think that lawsuit was based on the fact that they didn't announce ahead of time and let everyone know that this is an AI, so it's almost like they were trying to defraud them. Although that case only sounds vaguely familiar. I'm not real sure in that opinion. What is
real creepy? Everybody thought it was real creepy.
Okay, so Ron in Kansas, what do you think about this? Should this even be legal?
No, I don't think that if it's a child's voice specifically, it's just like we can't identify a child in a crime or that has been hurt. Why are we using a child's voice to influence things? Especially when we really don't know if that's really was his opinion. That might be his parents' opinion, but he may have liked guns.
Do you think half the country that agrees with what he's saying, do you think they find this creepy?
I don't think there's half the country again. I think those numbers are so, if everybody's so afraid of it, why do we have over 400 million guns in private hands?
Well, because
I think it's that small proportion of the country that tries to make it look like they're much bigger than they are.
Yeah, okay, I can kind of buy into that. I don't think it should be illegal, but I see a lot of other people saying what you're saying, and they think it should be illegal. I think it should just be recognized as kind of morbid. Just like I like the last caller. I think that was the perfect word for it. It's
extremely morbid.
All right, well, great call, Ron in Kansas. Thanks for listening all the time. I'll try and do good shows for you tomorrow, too.
Hey, you're always on it. You're always on it.
Thank you, sir. All right, I'm going to play this RFK audio, and then I have Alan West scheduled for the next segment. So I want you to take this in and digest this RFK audio, and then we'll take some calls after we talk to Alan West, because I feel like this is a no-brainer that we shouldn't be able to buy candy and soda on food stamps. Now, my opinion got said early on this, before I was even a political animal and knew what the heck I was and knew anything about economics. When I was in high school, I was a sacker at an Albertsons, and I got to put everyone's groceries in a sack. And I see what all you people buy. I saw what all of you people buy. I see what the pretty 50-year-old housewife who lives on the great side of town buys. I see what the people coming in with 5 kids and food stamps buys. I see what poor college kids buy. I see what single dads buy when it's not their weekend with the kids. I see what they buy when it is their weekend with the kids. And it was in that, and just observing what people bought for groceries when I was 17 years old, that I noticed a ton of soda and candy and Oreos and junk was bought with food stamps. And I've always been on this train, but are we actually going to get it?
We're spending $405 million a day on SNAP, and about 10% is going to sugary drinks. And between, and if you add candies to that, it's about 13 to 17%. And we all believe in free choice. We live in a democracy. People can make their own choice about what they're going to buy and what they're not going to buy. If you want to buy a sugary soda, you ought to be able to do that. But the U.S. taxpayer should not pay for it. And the U.S. taxpayer should not be paying to feed kids foods, the poorest kids in our country, with foods that are going to give them diabetes.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer, right? So I want to talk to you about that after we have a chat with Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. He's coming up next on the James Show. But if you got any comments about the RFK SNAP updates, we're going to have that conversation next after Alan West. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227, because I got a lot to say about that. But after Alan West, who's next on the James Show. Hey, homeowners, have you checked on your roof lately? Did you check on it this week? Did you check on it this month? What about this year? Has it been 5 years? Has it been 10 years? Have you ever had anyone check on your roof? Well, you know there's bad things that can happen if you neglect your roof for too long. Here's the good news. To get it checked out doesn't cost you anything. There's going to be no money in the exchange's hands. It will cost you maybe a little bit of time as Blue Ribbon Roofing comes out and does the free inspection, as they explain what they found, as they show you the pictures, as they give you the quick education that you need on shingles and roofs and pitches and decking and soffit vents and ridge vent ventilation and a bunch of other things I don't understand because my understanding of carpentry is limited. But also, the big thing you're worried about, I know what keeps you from calling. It's not that you want to neglect your roof. It's not that you want all the problems that come if you find a roof problem too late. You're worried about the cost. You're worried about them finding something, and if they do need to fix it, are you going to have the money? Well, the good news is there's a lot of options out there. They can help walk you through them. If the big obstacle is going to be that pain in the neck insurance company, they can help you with that. If you've already filed and you only got like $25,000 and they're like, that's all we're going to give you. You know, you can go read some of the Google 5-star reviews and see that for some people, Blue Ribbon Roofing shows up, they'll refile the claim. They'll get you the money you deserve, more than you got. Why? Because they've been doing this for 31 years and you haven't, and that's okay. It just starts with getting the free inspection, just like I did. James Parker, I had them up on my roof, checking it out, taking pictures, and showing me what's up. So get your free roof inspection today. And if you do need a new roof, mentioned you heard it on the James Show, free ridge vent ventilation upgrade. So go to blueribbondfw.com, schedule that free inspection now. blueribbondfw.com. Welcome back to the show, Alan.
It's good to be with you, James. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's start with the top story here. Your reaction to the Democrats who are fleeing their job as representatives in the Texas legislature. First off, how do you think this is going to end?
It's going to end, and as well as it should end, with their seats being vacated. This is petty. This is petulant, irresponsible, immature. And it's a big political stunt, but we should have seen this coming because it was just 4 years ago they did the exact same thing over election integrity legislation in a special session. And of course, they were not held responsible or accountable for their actions. So I guess they figured they could do it again. But this whole thing, it was avoidable in that, it was last week The maps were passed out of the committee. We had a surprise visit by the House Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, down to Austin, Texas. That should have let the Texas House Democrats, especially Speaker of House Dustin Burrows, know what was up. But for whatever reason, he decided to declare an adjournment for 4 days. And so guess what? The Democrats went ahead and boarded their airplanes and took off. But we should have known this was a possibility, and we should have had everything prepared to vacate their seats, which means that they have basically abandoned their duties and responsibilities. And that is basically a resignation of their duties. That's just not an opinion of the Attorney General. That's also part of the Texas State Constitution, if I'm correct. And therefore, you just change the quorum by reducing that number of vacated seats. Their pay should be cut off immediately. It should have been done yesterday when they didn't show up, to include their staffers.
Right. Well, the pay for a Texas state legislator is comparatively small to what I think a lot of people think a salary is. Isn't it something like $13,000? It's
$600, $700 a month. But the thing is that they get paid per diem. And so right now, if that pay has not been stopped, they're being paid per diem by the Texas taxpayer right now to hang out in beautiful sunny Chicago, along Lake Michigan, and various other sundry places where they are.
Well, who could argue with that? However, Alan West, I've covered these things in the past, and they never get punished for this.
Well, they have to this time. If they don't, guess what? It's very Pavlovian. You would have rewarded bad behavior. And, it's quite the hypocrisy that they would pick up and run off to a state where they do exactly what they have left Texas because of. You go to California, you go to Massachusetts, you go to Illinois. I mean, there are, I believe, 5 or 6 blue states in the United States of America that have no Republican congressional districts whatsoever. So their whole argument is pretty sad. And remember, this is the exact same party that wanted to make and still want to make D.C. and Puerto Rico states so they can increase congressional representation in their favor. And they want to pack the Supreme Court with 9 more Supreme Court justices who they feel would be, of course, leaning to their side. So I think that this is a matter of, they are having to eat their own crow, and they don't like it. Doesn't taste real good.
What's your reaction to the criticism that if Texas can get away with redistricting for no reason in the middle of the decade, that other states are going to follow suit?
I'm sorry, there's no validity to that statement, because that's what the Democrats have been doing. When you look at California, which has about, I think, 40 to 43% of a Republican electorate, but they only have 17% Republican representation in the United States House of Representatives, and the same with Chicago, and the same with Massachusetts. And I just said you got 5 or 6 blue states that have zero Republican representation whatsoever, even though you have a Republican electorate there. So again, this is a laughable hypocrisy from the Democrats. And it's kind of like the Saul Alinsky rules for radicals playbook has been turned against them. And again, they don't like that.
We're talking with Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. When we look at how this could affect the elections, you are in a unique spot as you're a guy who, when you got into Congress, you flipped a seat. You took a seat that was 55% Democrat and 45% Republican. And in a matter of a couple of years, you changed that to 55% Republican, 45% Democrat. How do you do it?
You take your message to the people. You use common sense. Look, there's a contingent that's going to always be stuck on stupid. You're not going to get through to them. But when you have a principled, constitutional-based presentation or agenda that you present to people, and you have the background where people can trust you and believe in you, then you can win pretty much so anywhere. Of course, I didn't win re-election because, number one, Republicans redistricted me out of the district, and there was a little thing about 112% voter turnout in a couple of precincts in St. Lucie County.
Oh, is that right? You got stuffed?
Yeah. Yeah, I got stuffed a little bit, but we still only lost by 0.49%. But, it's those type of things that, again, the Democrats have been doing. Remember Al Franken and Norm Coleman, the senatorial election in Minnesota, when they kept finding ballots in the trunk of cars.
Yeah. I remember that. Oh, look, we found another one. They just happen to be overwhelmingly for Al Franken. What are the odds? All right, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, what are you promoting these days? You keep taking on all these causes. What can I promote for you?
Well, I'm the executive director for the American Constitutional Rights Union, and I'm heading up to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania tomorrow to meet with the Pennsylvania Police Alliance, because what we have happening is the ACLU and other leftist organizations are filing lawsuits and suing law enforcement agencies and law enforcement agents and officials for doing the right thing by working with ICE. In other words, enforcing the law. And even in Colorado, you have a law that was passed out there by their blue state legislature that prevents law enforcement agents from working with ICE, which means that they have codified into law them being a sanctuary city, a sanctuary state, which is unconstitutional. So that's a big thing that I'm working on right now.
All right. Well, I really appreciate the time. You're a great guest always. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, thank you very much, sir. How many of you right now have a soda in the console of your car? Or if you're listening at work, how many of you got a drink? I have a drink right here. Does this count as a soda? I've got the 7-Eleven generic version of Gatorade Zero. Does this count as soda? Would RFK let me buy this? I don't know. I assume that you bought yours with your own money, but a lot of people are out there buying sodas with your money as well. And a lot of people don't like the fact that money is being taken from them, given to people who qualify, and they turn around and they buy junk with it. Because you're told that this is for food. If people don't have food, they die. Well, they're not going to die without Mr. Pibb. So what I think is a no-brainer, I assume you may think that too, may actually come to fruition, because RFK wants to end food stamps being used for candy and sodas.
We're spending $405 million a day on SNAP, and about 10% is going to sugary drinks. And and if you add candies to that, it's about 13 to 17%. And we all believe in free choice. We live in a democracy. People can make their own choice about what they're going to buy and what they're not going to buy. If you want to buy a sugary soda, you ought to be able to do that. But the U.S. taxpayer should not pay for it. And the U.S. taxpayer should not be paying to feed kids foods, the poorest kids in our country, with foods that are going to give them diabetes.
Now, there's some big lessons here, and the health one is like the one I'm least concerned about. I think the biggest lesson here is what a terrible job government does when you allow it to take over the functions of charity. Because it does a terrible job when you allow it to take over functions of anything. Charity is included in that. Government is inefficient, ineffective, wasteful, completely destructive in everything that you let it. That's why it's so good at the military, because the military's job is what? Blowing stuff up? It's about the only thing the government can do right is destroy things. But if we took away food stamps and we gave it back to, it's like, James, well, what about all the poor people? How are they going to eat? Well, food stamps have only been around since the 60s. So how did they eat before then? Well, they went to food banks, churches had a bigger role, much bigger role than they have now. That's who was really leaning on it. And my church has a assistance program. My previous one did too. And you know what they do? They don't just give you a bunch of money and say, go buy whatever you want. They give you the food. They make sure you're eating healthy. Yeah, they do a better job. They don't give you diabetes and just a blank check to run your pancreas into the ground. So yeah, not only should we not allow sodas and candy to be bought with food stamps, I'd be much happier if we all admitted that the food stamp was well intended, but it was a terrible experiment and we were better off without it, and just get rid of them altogether. Now, I know a lot of people aren't ready for that step, but can you at least meet me halfway and say no candy or sodas for food stamps? However you want to do it. Maybe it should be like the WIC program, women and infant children, where there's like 8 things in the store you can buy with it. You can buy milk, eggs, flour, meat. That's just about it. 800-288-9227. This is Elizabeth in McKinney. You're on WBAP.
Hi there.
Hey, Elizabeth.
I am 100% on board with what he's talking about doing, but I'd even take it a step further. I work in a grocery store, so I see it every day. People buying.
Wait, are you a cashier?
I am.
Oh, man. So, I bagged groceries for when I was in high school for a few months there. I got to watch what everyone bought. And if only everyone got to see what you see, Elizabeth.
Absolutely, because they still come through with carts just heaped over, with the majority of it being soda, cookies, candy, juice that is not actually juice. That's just pure sugar with no juice.
Grape drink, as Chappelle called it. Grape drink, yeah.
Exactly. Chips, all of that stuff. And I'm looking at everything they're buying, and I'm thinking, I can't afford to do that, but I'm paying for you to do that.
Well, and there's some weird myths out there that would be blown out of the water if everyone had your experience, Elizabeth. When people say, well, yeah, poor people buy junk food because it's cheaper. I'm sorry, the produce aisle is cheaper than most of the stuff that's in the cookie aisle or the junk food aisle. What's a pound of bananas right now? 68 cents. You can't eat
Probably somewhere around there.
Yeah, you can't eat $5 worth of bananas, but $5 won't even. It'll get you half of a number one at McDonald's right now. So I mean, just. Man, you have the wisdom of everyone's eating habits in your head, and if only I could just telepathically put that out because you've also seen the converse. These people who come in and they're like 50 years old, but they're in great shape and they look nice and their hair's done. And what are they buying? They're buying crazy stuff like broccoli and kale and just like slabs of meat. And like you get to see, these people that make good decisions with their diet seem to be doing pretty well in the rest of their life. And the people who make poor decisions with their diet seem to be making poor decisions elsewhere in their life as well. There's a great correlation there.
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for sharing.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you've seen all that, and I'm glad you called the show, Elizabeth.
Of course.
Let's go to Angie in North Carolina. You're on WBAP.
Hi. I just wanted to say that in 97 through 99, I was on assistance. I got food stamps and money, and I needed it because I was pregnant going through school. As soon as I graduated college and got into a job, I dropped it. It was there. It helped me with medical and everything else. But when Obama came into office, he changed that. Now, and even when I was in school, I had to report that I at least looked for a job, where I looked and when I looked, 3 times a week.
Yeah, well, Obama wiped out the work requirements. We tried to put some of them back here, and it's not even as stiff as it was under Clinton. Clinton put in the ones that you were dealing with.
Right.
But you know what? That's what happens when you leave it up to the private sector. When you have private sector food pantries and charity and assisted living, help people get back on their feet. A lot of that does come with a sunset provision. A lot of that does have a time limit on it. And it's not meant to be a long-term lifestyle choice. It's what you did.
We weren't allowed to buy sweets and stuff like that. That was not part of what we could buy.
Oh, you couldn't buy it? You couldn't buy candy back in the day?
No, anything sweet. You could buy juice, stuff like that, but you could not buy soda, candy. You had a list of things that they thought was nutritional. And I think they should take and start drug testing. If you're on assistance, you shouldn't be sitting around doing drugs.
Oh, man. See, now we just get rid of it. You don't have to start testing people and checking their pee for drugs and coming up with the list of blacklisted and whitelisted stuff in the grocery. Just get rid of all of it. Just let the private sector do it. And if you don't like it, then don't give money to that private sector food charity. I see that as just so common sense obvious that you're brain dead to be against it. Yet we live in a world where your food stamps can buy things that are so wildly unhealthy, there's no way it could be mistaken for nutrition, right? And it's the supplemental nutrition assistance program. Nutrition kind of implies that it's food that you actually need to live on with like maybe a nutrient thrown in there, maybe a plant, an animal, some vitamin C or something. But let's just go ahead and take this thing to its full conclusion. Can we just get rid of food stamps, period, point blank, end of story? That's what I want. I don't think anyone's willing to come to my extreme, and I'll admit it's an extreme. I see what the polls say. I know most people don't agree with me, but I think this is a great litmus test, because if we can't even get sodas and candy restricted from food stamp usage, then we're just not taking fiscal responsibility serious at all. And what's the number one problem that we have in this country as far as health goes? It's not smoking cigarettes. It's not drinking alcohol. It's not fentanyl. It's sugar. Being fat, heart disease, diabetes, the cardiovascular issues that come with it. This is what kills far more people every year than guns or cars or probably alcohol and smoking combined. Eva in Frisco, you're on WBAP.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Just wanted to say right quick, I 100% agree that all this needs to be cleaned up, very crap out. But I think it does have its place, because during my first marriage, we were on WIC for a while because we had financial hardship. One of my kids was born very ill, and it was regulated to the point where I went up there and got some cereal and cheese and peanut butter one time, and I got a box of cereal that was too big. They told me to take it back. So I think WIC would be a good model for keeping this thing around, because, like you mentioned earlier, there are foods on there that are selected. You just have an amount to choose from.
Okay, why not turn it over to the private sector? And for the people that need WIC when they're young and they're just having kids and they can't quite make ends meet, why don't you just go to the local food bank or local church, or maybe the atheists can start up some of their own little charitable functions, and you just go there instead of it being, because it costs us, what did RFK say there, like $450 or $405 million a day for this, and it's gotten way out of hand. We have about 13% of the country that's on food stamps, and that seems a little high. This isn't just the bottom of the barrel people who absolutely need it. There's a lot of people who on food stamps who need to lose weight, for God's sake.
Oh, I agree. There's people out there that are taking advantage of the system, obviously, and whether it's private sector or however, I do think that something like that has a place for people that actually need it.
Okay.
And get rid of all the people that are bucking the system. And we didn't have childhood obesity when I was growing up, when I was in elementary school in the 70s, and we need to do something about all these health problems we have.
Yeah, what would childhood obesity look like if we got rid of food stamps? John in Fort Worth, you're on WBAP. Go.
Yes, sir. Thank you for taking my call. Hey, I was in Walmart the other day. It's probably 2 or 3 days before payday, and I'd run out of lunch meat. So I went down there. I was buying a loaf of bread and some, bologna. And the girl in front of me, she looked pretty healthy, and she's buying 6 ribeyes, about that many T-bones, and had a brisket. And I was like, well, that's going to be a nice party. And then she pulls out her WIC card. So I think people are gaming the system more than they need it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I believe people that need it, I don't have nothing wrong with that. But
well, I don't even think they're gaming the system.
Yeah.
They're just using the system as most people would. If you hand them free stuff, they're going to spend it on whatever they want. I got a good comment over here on the X feed from WBAP where it says, y'all are missing the point here. Pepsi, Coca-Cola, Hershey's, M&M, Mars, they all wanted a piece of the pie. Yeah. Oh, no, I agree with that. There's corporations that stand to gain a lot of money if they get included on WIC, and they'll lose it when it goes away. WIC, food stamps, but they'll lose it when it goes away. All good points, people. I wish I had more time to talk to you, but stick around. Mark Levin's coming up next. If you need more James Show in the meantime, go check out the podcast. It's at WBAP.com, WBAP app, or whatever app you already listen to podcasts on. Go look me up there, and I'll talk to you until the James Show starts again tomorrow. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP.
The James Show Podcast.